A bombshell report released this morning claims that the Pittsburgh Steelers contacted the Jacksonville Jaguars to inquire about trading for quarterback Trevor Lawrence to upgrade the quarterback position here in 2025. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today, we're going to be talking about the possibility of potentially trading for Trevor Lawrence. And at the end of today's show, I think that my biggest takeaway from this report has nothing to do with Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to reveal what that big takeaway is at the end of today's show, so make sure you guys stick around to the end of today's edition of Steelers Talk. But before we get into the content, we talk about Trevor Lawrence today. Click that subscribe button, because if this report is any indication, the QB rumors and the QB search for the Pittsburgh Steelers is just getting started. NFL free agency starts in about a month, guys. So we got all the latest news and rumors surrounding the quarterback position leading up to whenever this team makes a decision. And when they do make that decision, we will be going live with a special edition of the Steelers Talk live show. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, for extensive Steelers quarterback rumors every single day. So we start with the report this morning from Ryan Burr that says the Steelers have made inquiries into the Jacksonville Jaguars about a trade for quarterback Trevor Lawrence. This is directly from the horse's mouth in the Jags organization. Wow! Then he says Steelers would deal this year's number 1 and number 2, but with draft in Pittsburgh next year, I'd be very surprised if next year's number 1 is even on the table. So let's talk about Trevor Lawrence here, man. 25 years old, still brings some really good athleticism to the table. He was very highly touted coming out of Clemson, which is why he was the first overall pick to the Jaguars in the 2021 NFL Draft. Great size at 6'6", 220 pounds, and he still has a whopping 6 years left on his current contract, ladies and gentlemen. He just signed a massive deal last year, and if he's traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is how the cap breakdown looks like for the next 6 seasons. So next year, it's actually not that bad. It's a big-time, back-loaded contract here. So $9.5 million against the 2025 cap for Pittsburgh if they trade for him, then $16.5, then $27.5, but then it starts getting really big with $39.5 in 2028, and then $78.5 in 2029, and then $74.8 in 2030. So obviously those final 2 years are probably more of the restructure kind of area there for Trevor Lawrence's contract. But you take a look here at his stats throughout his career to this point. And, I think that 2022 season where he threw for over 4,100 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, went to the playoffs, won a playoff game. There's a lot of good things coming out of that season. But then 2023 kind of had a dip in production, threw more interceptions, threw less touchdowns, didn't make the postseason. Then in 2024, a big drop-off in completion percentage. He only played in 10 games, so he dealt with some injuries as well. And just 11 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He did not protect the football particularly well last year, despite getting that massive contract in the offseason. And according to this report here, the Steelers would be offering their first and second round picks in this year's NFL draft. So pretty much you're saying we don't want any new talent to start for us next year if you make this trade, guys. I don't know if I love this idea, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Would you accept this trade if you were Steelers GM Omar Khan, a first and a second round pick for Trevor Lawrence? Type A for accept or D for decline. This will be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube will throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by let me know, would you accept or decline this trade for T-Law? Whether you want Trevor Lawrence on the Steelers or not, guys, this trade just simply isn't happening, and the Steelers can inquire about the possibility of trading for him all they want. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the Jacksonville Jaguars to unload Trevor Lawrence at this point. Not only did Liam Cohen, their new head coach, take the job to work with Trevor Lawrence, but the Jags would also take on $100 million in dead cap if he were to be traded this year because of that massive contract, which, by the way, was the largest in NFL history for a quarterback at the time. To unload him just one offseason after giving him that contract with a ton of guaranteed money still left on the deal in future seasons. It just doesn't make sense whatsoever for the Jacksonville Jaguars to make this kind of move. And this was evidenced by the fact here by Michael DeRocco from ESPN, who said this just moments ago regarding recent reports that Steelers have inquired about a trade for Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence. A Jaguars source said there's quote-unquote no chance they'll trade Lawrence and called the idea quote-unquote ridiculous. And then Benjamin Albright also shot it down minutes after the report came out, saying calling a team with a new coach and no GM, and seeing if their quarterback is available for trade and getting immediately shut down isn't quote-unquote having discussions. It's temperature checking, and teams do it all the time. So Albright saying the Steelers got shut down immediately, and they're not really in discussions for Trevor Lawrence at this point. And then Albright went even further here and said Cohen took the job because Trevor Lawrence was there in Jacksonville. So obviously Cohen's excited to work with T-Law. And my take on this, guys, is that even if Trevor Lawrence was available and it made sense for the Jaguars to trade him for a first and a second round pick, I'm not even sure if I would be down for the Steelers to do that, if I'm being completely honest with you. I'm not even sure if Trevor Lawrence at this point in his NFL career is that much better than Justin Fields, the guy that has already been here a year and honestly has the higher upside than what Trevor Lawrence brings to the table, at least in terms of the rushing element that Fields brings to the table. You can take a look at the advanced stats for Trevor Lawrence this past year, and it really wasn't phenomenal for him this past year, guys. He was 22nd in EPA per play. He was 42nd in adjusted completion percentage. He was second in ADOT, so he was bombing the ball down the field to Brian Thomas Jr. all season long last year. He was 18th in yards per attempt, 15th in big-time throw percentage, then 35th in turnover-worthy play percentage. His TWP the last 2 years, guys, has been very, very concerning. Then you get to the career averages here between Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, and honestly, it's not that much of a difference if we're being completely honest with each other here. The completion percentage is slightly higher for Trevor, but Justin has the advantage in yards per attempt, touchdown percentage, and the interception percentage. It's around the same, but T-Law does have the advantage in that regard. And then the quarterback rating just slightly better for Trevor Lawrence. But, the difference is, Lawrence is super expensive, whereas Fields, you could probably get him for a 1-year, $15 million contract or something along that like. And you look at the numbers from this past season, the advanced numbers and where these guys ranked. I mean, Justin Fields, you can argue, was right there with Trevor Lawrence in most of these major categories. Now, I wouldn't say that either of these quarterbacks particularly played extremely well last year, but, if you're going to be making this kind of investment in a guy like Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's got to be at least better than Justin Fields, guys. He's got to be clearly better than Justin Fields. And by the way, the numbers that we just showed you doesn't even account for the rushing upside that Justin Fields brings to the table. So I'm not even sure if Trevor Lawrence is that much better than Justin Fields at this point in their respective NFL journeys. Remember, these two quarterbacks are inextricably tied because of them being in the same draft class here. So I just think that, Justin would probably be the better option if this is, the choice, because Justin is the far cheaper option. You're going to have to give up a first and a second round pick to get Trevor Lawrence versus just getting Justin Fields, who's already spent a year in this offense. He already has established chemistry with the wide receivers in the wide receiver room, and you can get him for like a 1-year, $15 million contract if you bring him back. And I just don't think Trevor Lawrence, even if he was made available via trade this offseason, would be worth the price, given what he has done in Jacksonville. And certainly you could say he hasn't had the best infrastructure in place. I mean, he had Urban Meyer his first year, and then Doug Peterson, wasn't great either in his 3 seasons there in Duval. And, at the end of the day here, guys, Trevor Lawrence is not going to be a Pittsburgh Steelers. You don't have to worry about it. But even if he were to be traded to this team, I wouldn't be particularly interested, especially over guys like Matthew Stafford and Sam Darnold, who I think would be better values. So my big takeaway, guys, and my big takeaway from this report has nothing to do with Trevor Lawrence, because it's just not happening, all right? This is just a silly report. They just inquired about him and got shut down. But my big takeaway here is that if this report is true, that means that the Pittsburgh Steelers are, in fact, inquiring about the availability of outside quarterbacks this offseason, and they are interested in replacing both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields this offseason to bring in a new QB1 for the 2025 campaign. Benjamin Albright, again here, tweeted today, I don't believe the Steelers quarterback this coming year is on their roster. So talking about from last season, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. And, I just think that is probably a good thing. If you can upgrade from Russell Wilson and Justin Fields and what they gave you last year, you should absolutely do it. I mean, if we're being completely honest here, neither Russell Wilson or Justin Fields was good enough to win the Super Bowl for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. Like, if Justin Fields doesn't make a big step forward this next year, I mean, the Steelers are going to be right back to where they were this year, where they're probably making the playoffs, or at least they're going to be on the cusp of the playoffs, but they're not going to have a chance to win a playoff game, all right? So the Steelers are trying to win and win now, and because Russ and Fields weren't good enough to get the job done last year. You have to at least do your due diligence and look for quarterback options outside the organization, and it certainly seems like the Steelers are doing that at this point. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. What is the percent chance that the Steelers bring in an outside quarterback to be their new starter in 2025? Put it on a scale of 0, meaning no chance they're definitely bringing back Russ or Fields, or all the way to 100 here where you think they're definitely getting an outside quarterback option. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And later today, Coop and I, we're going to be going live here on Steelers Talk Live at 5 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be going live 30 minutes before our usual live time. Coop has some plans later today. He's going to the Mavs game here in Dallas, so we're going to be going live a little bit earlier this evening here. So 5 p.m. Eastern time. Do not be late. We've got my updated quarterback targets. We've got my updated perfect offseason plan. We got a bunch of great Steelers content coming your way later this afternoon. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already for the latest quarterback news and rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers.